I'm Author Function.
I'm Galvin.
And this is the Secret Boss podcast where we talk about the best auteurs in gaming, whether they deserve that title or not. And today we are talking about Yoshiaki Koizumi, who has made some of the greatest games of all time, at least as Nintendo fans talk about them. We're talking Super Mario Galaxy. We're talking The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. We're talking Super Mario Sunshine. And wait a second. I'm getting an editorial note. Galvin, do you know what's happening?
No, I don't. What was happening?
I have a message. This is a message for the 2000s, early 2010s games media. They've decided to rename the episode Shigeru Miyamoto 2 Electric Boogaloo. This is because Miyamoto is a more recognizable name and will get more clicks, which will mean that we'll have a self-repeating cycle of fame for Shigeru Miyamoto until internet hipsters decide to sound more knowledgeable by mentioning Koizumi instead. This is crazy. This is big. We've never had this before.
Wow, that's really something.
You are nonplussed. You have negative pluses.
I'm very good at improv, as you can tell.
I shouldn't be throwing these things at you. Anyway, basically my point is that a lot of the work that Miyamoto has done in the producer role has been kind of uplifted in a lot of the games media to be the author of these games. And because we're a lot more interested in directors, some of these games are more notable for Miyamoto's gamography. What am I saying, directory? A lot of these games are more...
They should call it that.
A lot of these games are a lot more well-known for being in part of Miyamoto's gamography because he was the producer for it, and because the Japanese producer role has a much larger role in doing advertising and marketing. That means that Miyamoto has been a much bigger face here. And that is also something that is true for Koizumi too. Even though he directed a lot of these really interesting games, he's become more well-known as he's become a producer, an executive. And he's been seen more often in Nintendo Directs and such, where he's front and center in the game's marketing. So he's actually more popular as someone who doesn't direct games than he was as a games director, which I think is kind of fascinating.
That's amazing to me because I was watching a video earlier where he was answering questions about being the producer of Super Mario Odyssey. And he's like, thank you so much for playing my game. And if you scroll down, all the comments are like, no, thank you, Koizumi, for making Super Mario Odyssey. And I'm like, he didn't direct that one. He directed Sunshine, he directed Galaxy. He did not direct Super Mario Odyssey. But anyways.
Yeah, I find it just so fascinating the way that the producer has taken up the role of the author of a lot of these works. I mean, I don't think that that's a necessarily wrong thing to do, but as we're going to do in this episode, I think it is much more interesting and much more fruitful to be thinking about the director as the author, because I think that Koizumi's directorial work is a lot more cohesive than his producing work. His direct involvement in a lot of these games means a lot to me. So I'd really like the opportunity to do that here. What is your relationship to these games?
My relationship to these games is that I always thought of Nintendo games as being made by Nintendo. I guess basically Shigeru. I didn't literally think Miyamoto directed all of these, but that was the only name I recognized. I always thought of Nintendo games as relatively anonymous, at least made by large groups of people that know what they're doing but aren't putting their names up front. So I didn't even realize that Galaxy and Sunshine were directed by the same person until recently, until this episode.
I just knew Miyamoto and Nintendo the company, so I really, really understood who Koizumi was after becoming an adult and actually learning more about the world and the games industry. Koizumi has a pretty interesting story for getting into the industry. He originally wanted to be a filmmaker, and he was working on that and decided to go into games. He says that he was interested in the way that games could do a lot of storytelling within the medium. I have a suspicion that being a filmmaker is hard, so he just kind of got a job at Nintendo and things worked out for him. That's just how I would interpret that, but I don't know. So he got a job at Nintendo doing game manuals, which were a lot larger back in the day, in the 90s, where the game manual would explain what most of the plot is. It would explain what the background is for the game, where there weren't a lot of in-game cutscenes comparatively. So he had a role in writing those, and eventually he would get on to Link's Awakening. And he was tasked to make the game manual before the game had even been written and a story had been written. So Nintendo brought him on to work on Link's Awakening, and he ended up doing more and more until he eventually just started writing the story for the game itself instead of just the manual, which I think is I don't know, just a kind of funny thing that happens in the early days of the medium where things were a lot more chaotic and less strict roles were happening.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like you said, the chaos that kind of leads to people getting promoted within the early days. It reminds me of how in the Miyamoto episode we talked about how Miyamoto was able to move up because he was able to draw pitches better than other people and then pitch them to, I think it was Gunpei Yokoi? Yeah, Gunpei Yokoi better than the other engineers who are just mainly in a technical background. I think the manuals are interesting because to me, the American market doesn't really think about like manuals. I mean, I'm sure it also defined the stories of many of the NES games and many of the earlier games, but I feel like Japanese games seem to prize their manuals a lot more than American markets. Would you say that's fair?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not super well informed enough on the game manuals to really say it for myself, but that sounds accurate to me. It seems like they had a lot more power and a lot more prestige for the Japanese market, but I can't. I think that also might be a thing because Japan was more interested in stories in general,
Hmm,
whereas I feel like there was a lot more gameplay focused stuff in
right.
the West. But I can't. That's a pretty broad brush.
That reminds me in the Miyamoto episode when we found out that they were like, when the video game market was initially booming, they had novelists bring in scripts for games to develop games from. So they would start with scripts and stories to try to develop the games from those. So maybe you're right. Yeah.
This episode really is going to be Miyamoto 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I'm trying to commit to it. Okay. The games media are going to kill us if you don't commit to this.
You're right. We got that editorial note. We got to follow it, or else. Koizumi became a designer for a few different games, and he eventually became a director on The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, one of the most acclaimed games ever. And this is a little bit of an overstatement because he was one of 5 directors on Ocarina of Time, not to mention the producers who also worked on the game. I was doing a lot of research on Ocarina of Time for this episode to see what he could have possibly contributed. I eventually learned that like there was a lot more mixing in that game that I initially thought. Like he had a role in creating the Z targeting system. Do I need to explain Z targeting? Basically, the lock on system for
Right.
the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which was like seen as a big deal for doing combat in 3D space. And he had a major role in doing that, but even that one specific thing wasn't him specifically. So it is a little bit hard to like parse a directorial vision for one of the 5 directors in Ocarina of Time. So instead, we're going to start with Majora's Mask, which is the follow up to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This was a game that was made in about a year off of the success of Ocarina of Time, where they're just trying to quickly make something using the same assets. Ocarina of Time is kind of like a training project for him, where Majora's Mask was more like, okay, you are being a real leader on this project. He was also a co-director with Aonuma, so wasn't completely a solo lead yet, but this is when he was getting a lot more power and a lot more interest in putting his own stuff in. Majora's Mask. Would you like to explain the amount of Majora's Mask that you played, Galvin? Because Galvin did not play the whole game.
Well, to be fair, you gave me very vague instructions. I don't know if you included this in the last episode, but
Okay.
you eventually told me to play the first dungeon, and then that's about it. If you don't have much more time than that, and I didn't have much more time than that, so I
Yes,
played
I
through.
said play the first dungeon. I didn't realize how vague that would be to you, because I don't know. This is something that is well defined in Zelda circles, but I guess not for you. So explain
Since
explain
when
what
is
you
this?
did, Galvin. Explain your
Since
sins.
when? Okay, I went through. I went into the big tree. I did all the Deku things. I came out in the Clock Town, and I walked around Clock Town for a little bit, and I was like, okay, I'm done. Since when is a city a dungeon? Offer. Explain. Explain yourself.
No, a city isn't a dungeon. That's why I wanted you to play more than that.
No, if I got out into the city and it's not a dungeon, then that means I finished the first dungeon. The Deku stuff was the dungeon. I was inside and then I got out.
We played the first Zelda game. When you say that you were done with the first Zelda, when you beat the first dungeon when you got the sword, and then you're like, "Yep, I got the sword." That's the end.
So you wanted me to play for like 3 hours? To me, a dungeon is like when you go through a series of trials and then you walk out into the open sky and that's it. That's basically what I
Okay,
did.
okay. So, did you get any? What story did you get out of this experience?
Okay, well, that's the thing. I think the atmosphere was very thick. I very much liked cinematic techniques and the atmosphere that Koizumi poured into this. My take this episode, to be clear, and I'm sure it's going to be biased, like every take is in every episode, but I think there is a lot of cinematic influence from Koizumi's work from film school into these games. Not that there weren't cutscenes in Ocarina of Time, obviously, but that opening with the opening in Majora's Mask when Skull Kid takes is it Epona? Is it the same horse from Ocarina of Time? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Epona.
I also love later on that Skull Kid's just like, by the way, I got rid of that horse. Did you fucking kill that horse? I didn't play far enough to find out, but it would be funny if you just kill that horse and then you never see Epona again. But anyways, Skull Kid takes
You'll
Epona,
never
and there's
know.
a yeah, I'll never know. I'll never finish the game. But that's it. Everyone knows if you play one game and you don't finish it, you can never come back to it. That's just how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff with like panning and like reusing the same animations, but like moving all around, capturing different angles and make it feel like things are moving. And oh my god, the Happy Mask salesman. I mean, okay, I've been spoiled on him. I know his name. He's a Happy Mask salesman, and I know he's like a creepy guy. But when he's revealed, it's like a very cinematic moment. He like slides in the frame from behind Link. There's a lot of creepy music. I don't know. These games are just very good at capturing a kind of feel, I guess, to me. So I would say I got like a decent amount out of it. Not story wise. I mean, story wise, so far the game still is apparently I have to get one mask for this guy and then the game will be over. Which I'm suspecting, considering what I know about the game, that's not what actually the game is about.
Okay.
But, you know,
I'm getting a growing suspicion that you don't know the premise of the game. Did you see a moon while you were playing?
I know what the moon is, okay? I'm saying
Okay.
that I didn't get to the moon part. I know the moon is part of Majora's Mask. I know that you rewind 3 days. Sorry, spoilers for all the people who didn't know what
Okay.
Majora's Mask is. But I'm saying if I was playing for the first time, I didn't get to that part. The main mission, technically, for me, was still to get that one mask for the Happy Mask Salesman in 3 days, which is not what the game is about. I'm assuming.
Yeah, so Majora's Mask is a game where you are trying to prevent the apocalypse. The moon is going to be crashing into the earth, and Link has to be avoiding this by using his magic time travel powers. He's using the Ocarina of Time to go back to the past using a 3-day time loop cycle where you play through the same 3 days over and over again. All the characters are on a set schedule, and you get to see the way that they change and what they do over the span of these 3 days. So there's a lot of asset reuse here, but it's using a very like economic use where you're doing a lot of the same, you're seeing a lot of the same events, but you can change things up in different ways and do different quests throughout this 3-day time span to prevent the end of the world by getting all the different masks or whatever.
You know, if Link uses the Ocarina of Time so much and it's such an integral part of the plot, I feel like the game should have been called Ocarina of Time. You know, that's a really good name. They should have thought of that.
Yeah. It was crazy in Ocarina of Time when they had Majora's Mask and they didn't have a name for it. It was just there. And that's what the whole plot was about. It was crazy.
Yep, that's it. It's like how they named that one episode of Better Call Saul Breaking Bad, and then they named one episode of Breaking Bad Better Call Saul.
Exactly. You haven't played Ocarina of Time, have you?
I played like 3 hours of of the 3DS version like years ago, and then I stopped.
Oh, damn.
I got to the
I was
dungeon
going
with
to
the big
say I could tell
fish.
you anything and then you would believe me. But I could tell you most things and you might be able to believe me. I'll keep that in mind
Unfortunately,
for later.
I've absorbed a lot of video game information from osmosis, so that's
Ah,
just
terrible.
the story of my life.
Paratext, how dare you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You ought to gatekeep me. I don't know anything. Majora's Mask is a truly cinematic video game because it's about being sad, which not many video games are about.
Is that your take? Are you going to be really
That's
cynical
my
about
take.
Majora's Mask?
Most video games are about being happy, but Majora's Mask is about being sad and scared, which makes it an art house film in the frame of video games.
I don't know how many levels of irony you're on right now.
Just accept it.
Okay. So, Majora's Mask is famous for being a very dark game, being about the end of the world, and there are a lot of different NPCs who have reactions to the end of the world. There are lots of characters that die, and instead of like focusing on the deaths, it's focusing on like the other NPCs' reactions to death. How do they react to the end of the world? What are they going to do? There are different storylines. Like there's a mailman who starts hiding out in his house on the 3rd day, the last day, where he'll just like hide in there and talk about how he doesn't want to die. There is a couple who has been separated from each other and they want to try and find each other before the end of the world so they can have their own marriage before they die. But then a few feet away from that, there are also characters like question mark, question mark, question mark, which is a hand that's inside of a toilet saying, I need toilet paper. Please bring me toilet paper, which is a very interesting comedic tonal whiplash if you go in between them. And I think that it kind of makes this game really special, in my opinion. I'm very nostalgic for this game, by the way. I played this when I was a kid, and I would say it's like my favorite game of all time when I was like 13 or so. So this game means a lot to me. It'd be a real bummer if someone only played the first 10 minutes of it and then just kind of stopped after that. But whatever. That wouldn't happen here. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really tragic, but I luckily I played like the first 20 minutes, so I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. Anyway, Koizumi had a big hand in making this game so dark. He really wanted to bring out a lot of the darker elements and story elements, whereas Aonuma was a lot more focused on the lighthearted aspects as well as the dungeon design. Aonuma is really known for the way that he makes these really structured and puzzly spaces, whereas Koizumi was a lot more interested in doing the side content, writing all these different characters. And building a world for the player to be interacting with. So there was kind of like a story gameplay divide between the two, but not entirely. A lot of people characterize Majora's Mask as Koizumi did the dark parts, whereas Onuma did the lighthearted parts. But he also, Onuma did the couple that is separated at the end game, which is like one of the most well known side quests in Majora's Mask for being I don't know, just very emotional side story there. So it's not a complete split in this production, but there is enough where the directors have commented on how Koizumi did the dark stuff and Aonuma did the lighthearted stuff. I want to know what dark things did you experience in your 20 minutes? Did you experience much?
Well, I met this man named Tingle, and he was very creepy. He freaked me the fuck out. Scariest part of the game. I mean, it was mainly the music and the presentation. I love that the game opens with you basically Alice in Wonderlanding down the rabbit hole into a completely different world. I think that's very interesting. And the fact that Skull Kid basically, it's like playing off of Ocarina of Time in that it's stripping you of all of your items and being like, okay, you're powerless again and you're in a world that you don't understand. I like that people are basically hostile to you, or like everyone's just like, I'm just trying to go to work, leave me alone. Simultaneously, there are like those juggling people that are like running around, stuff like that. Yeah, I would say the atmosphere of Clocktown is what really, I don't know, creeped me out, along with Skull Kid and the mask salesman. But simultaneously, walking around the town is like, you get the cheerier parts that I remember from Ocarina of Time. So there is a balance there that I really like.
I'm also now realizing that you didn't get to the more darker parts of Ocarina of Time either, which I think is kind of funny. So what I think is a common theme in Koizumi's work going forward is a focus on perception and kind of a sort of breakdown of the way that we look at things. Because first off, you started off on Link's Awakening, which is a very dreamlike game. The whole game is set in a dream and everything.
Oh my god, spoilers! How could I have known for a game called Link's Awakening that it was actually a dream the whole time? You ruined it for me. I can't play the game now. Fuck.
Don't tell anyone. Also, never gonna guess what happens at the end of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Well, you'll never know. Okay, so Majora's Mask is also kind of a dreamlike space because it uses a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time, and it's kind of Alice in Wonderlanding things. There's still like a surreal element where you're interacting with characters from the first game, but they're slightly different, and it feels off in a way when you're playing through that, along with the atmosphere through the music and the visuals. It just adds to this dreamlike quality. There's also a big part in the beginning where you are moving across a hallway. The hallway starts to twist and turn when you're going up and down the walls and ceiling. There's just a lot of really interesting surreal elements in this without going too in depth into it. There's also a part for a comedic moment where the happy mask salesman just pulls out a gigantic organ out of nowhere when you cut to him at some point. I thought that was funny as well. But anyway, there's this focus on this dreamlike state and the sort of despair while still being like unserious and being kind of detached from the entire thing. Because you're using the time loop, the end of the world doesn't really feel like the end of the world at a certain point. It's just kind of like a thing that you're dealing with and processing throughout the entire game, because you see the moon crash into the ground and kill everyone over and over and over again, and then you just kind of have to keep on moving on for that, and none of it like feels real. It's kind of like a state of derealization from what everyone else is kind of have to deal with, where you slowly start to care less about these characters, which is kind of endemic to a lot of time loop stories as well. I'm gonna keep on building on that theme of perception as you go on to the rest of these. Do you have any other thoughts on Majora's Mask?
No, I wish I played it more. I genuinely wish I knew what you're talking about when you said the first dungeon, but I guess it's my fault for misinterpreting. Sorry.
Okay,
I was really.
I'm sorry. I really don't want to sound mean about this, but are you aware of like what the Zelda dungeons are?
I mean, I really I mean, I know what they are. I just really did think you were talking about getting out of the first part. I don't know. I didn't expect you
Okay.
wanted me to play so much of it because, well, to be fair, I already told you I was going to focus
Yeah.
on Mario Galaxy, Mario Sunshine. So I was like, it can't be that much from Zelda, right? So probably was my expectations limiting it. No, but I was really looking for for the Majora's Mask because I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I like the idea of balancing a kind of comic-y tone with kind of dark tone because I feel like a lot of games, or just a lot of art in general, leans too far into one side or another. I mean, even Tim Burton couldn't handle that after 2008.
Oh
You
my
know,
god.
it's true.
So Majora's Mask ended up being like such a success for doing so much with so little that the higher ups at Nintendo were interested in Koizumi doing his own lead project. He was going to be a lead on Super Mario Sunshine. The Super Mario Sunshine is also kind of known for having a rushed schedule. It is a lot more divisive because of that. A lot of people really like Super Mario Sunshine. A lot of people don't. Galvin, what are your thoughts on Super Mario Sunshine?
I want to make a joke here, but really it's just I feel disappointment surging through my body just thinking about Super Mario Sunshine that I can't even really make a joke. It's a game that I really wanted to liking the other 3D Marios, or at least most of the ones before like 3D Land. I don't like the Wii U and the 3DS 3D Marios, but it was a game that I heard so much about and I thought was really creative. I just liked the idea of the water gun and all the different experimental stuff that I heard about the game, but actually playing the game was very frustrating for me. Let's just say it's not really a game about shooting water as much as it is failing a chain of jumps and then swimming back to the place where you began a chain of jumps and then trying the chain of jumps again and then failing and then swimming back again. Did not like it.
Yeah. That's very understandable. Luckily, we have a good cop, bad cop routine here. I'm gonna have the opposite opinion in that I fucking hate this game. I hate this game so much. It's awful. I want to throw this game into the ocean where it belongs. I've tried to play Super Mario Sunshine so many times throughout my life because it's like I've played every other 3D Mario game, and the 3D Mario games are just like video game canon. People really like Super Mario Sunshine. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play this game. I'm gonna beat it because it's like the last Mario game I have to play. And then I will put it into my Wii or whatever, and then I'll start working on it. I'm like, wow, I hate this game. Within the first 3 level, I'm like, I can't deal with this. I'm not gonna keep playing. I don't want to play Super Mario Sunshine. I've done this so many times. I did this as a kid, so it's not like I was a person who played this game as an adult compared to like other Mario games that didn't like it. No, I played this game as a kid. I did not like Super Mario Sunshine. It was one of the first games where I'm like, wow, this game is bad. I played so many bad games. I played carnival games.
To be more specific, what parts don't you like about Super Mario Sunshine?
So first off, first thing is that there are cutscenes in this game. There aren't as many cutscenes as I thought there was going to be, but the cutscenes are really bad. They're boring. They look ugly. The voice acting is awful.
Oh yeah.
And the whole premise to me doesn't feel like Mario. I did play other Mario games first, so maybe I was biased in that way. But to me, Mario is about going on an adventure and using quick movement to explore different areas and enjoy the feeling of moving around. Whereas Mario Sunshine really didn't do that for me at the very start of the game. It gets better now that I've actually been in the game, but as a kid, I would see that opening cutscene and I go, this feels like the worst cartoon I've ever watched. I don't like that these people are talking. They shouldn't do that. And I start off the game and it's like, so the premise of the game is that Mario goes to Delfino Plaza and the people are there are like, oh no, you polluted our town. And Mario's like, what? I didn't pollute your town. And then there's a scene where he gets convicted in court and he has to clean up the town. And it turns out that there is a secret Shadow Mario who has secretly been polluting the town and pretending to be him. Then you actually start to play the game and you do clean the town. You have to wash things with a little hose called Flood, which is a talking hose. And I also hate his voice and he talks too much, at least at the start of the game. And then you just clean up the grime on the ground and you have to do a really boring boss battle as well, twice, like back to back.
Are you talking about the Piranha Plant?
Yeah, the piranha plant, and I think that like the grime starts to attack you as well. Is that a separate boss or is that the same one?
I mean, I guess the minions as part of the to distract you from attacking the big muddy Piranha
Yeah.
Plant. I think they're like minions in the boss battle, but I see your point. Yeah.
a lot of people say that you should put the best parts of your game in the first 5 minutes or so to really like sell the audience on it. You don't have a captive audience like in a movie, so the beginning is really important to like get people engaged and make sure that they keep on doing things. The first few minutes are very different from the rest of the game, but it still sours the rest of the game for me because you just stand still, spraying stuff, and you're not jumping around and stuff, which is what I want in a Mario game. I want to do some jumping and navigate some levels, and I didn't get that in Super Mario Sunshine. And I always hated that. And even when I did like start the actual levels, I didn't like the controls very much. They felt very slippery to me. You accelerate really quickly when you move. There isn't a lot of air control if you jump. If you move the analog stick while you're jumping, you're not going to be affecting the arc of the jump very much. They removed the long jump, which is how I most like to navigate all the Mario games. So it also meant that when you're crossing gaps, if you don't have the long jump, it's going to be a much slower feeling to cross over a gap. You can hover using the flood as well, which is very slow as well. It also just feels not as polished in general. I've clipped through so many things in this game. I've fallen off of platforms, which I really don't think I should have fallen off of. And the controls also just feel slippery. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but like the acceleration for the jump is like, it feels like you're floating off of the ground when you jump. And it doesn't feel like there's any impact. So there's that, and also that you have to use FLUDD a lot, and I just don't like standing still in a Mario game. I just want to run through everything. But that's a me problem, I guess.
It's strange to me because I am disappointed by this game, but I'm guessing now for very different reasons from yours, because I actually like I like the first 5 minutes of the game. I like the way Aldofina looks. I like FLUDD. I mean, I didn't think the cutscenes were that annoying because there's really only like 1 to 2 minutes of them, and then you're basically just let loose into the game. I really don't remember there being that many cutscenes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of cutscenes in this game, but it really soured me at the beginning, and I thought there was going to be more.
And I mean, as someone looking back from someone who didn't grow up with these games, I mean, I don't know if you didn't grow up with these games either, right? But as someone, I guess, who has later retrospective, I was thinking of Power Wash Simulator the entire time, and I love Power Wash Simulator. And I thought it would be interesting to have a game where you were combining platforming with basically covering like a certain surface area. I mean, they kind of did that later on in Reverse with Splatoon, where they kind of combined the shooter with covering large amounts of surfaces and stuff. But I was using FLUDD a lot in moving, basically. I loved using the jetpack, which is basically what I was doing the entire time. And I thought that was very interesting. That all went away when I got into the levels, and a lot of it was just like very water-based, and a lot of the level design was if you fell into the water, then you have to swim all the way back to the beginning. And it's like, why
Yes.
did you make the game like this? I like how the levels look. I like the presentation, honestly. I was even okay with giving up the long jump because they kind of replace it with the dive, which is more based on like water, like sliding along surfaces, and you go faster on wet surfaces. And I thought they would. I mean, I didn't get far enough in the game, but I was hoping they would try to use that more. So I was fully ready to like give up a lot of the old Mario traditions, but it was like, man, the level design is not good. It's a strange thing where I was very into the presentation that Koizumi was giving, but then level design completely ruined. Whereas in other Mario games, it's usually the opposite.
Yeah, the level design is like building off of Super Mario 64, where you have a big open level, but there are different objectives on the level that you have to go to. Except in this game, the levels are much larger, which means that if you want to get from one place to another, you're going to have to get there a lot more slowly. And also, there's a degree of realism to it. It's like there are buildings that look like they kind of work. There are lakes, which makes sense. And if you want to navigate them, if you want to just like play through this in a Mario level, the level doesn't feel like it's built to accommodate just running around through the level. It feels like it's built to look like it's a real place primarily. And especially, God, the water in this game. Having water be a punishment is so much worse than death because
Yes. So much so.
people complain about this game being hard. I don't think it's that hard, but it's very punishing. So if you do make a mistake, it means that you're going to be wasting so much time to redo what you just did. And also a part of this level design is that this game is like a waiting platformer. It's a timing platformer. There are so many obstacles in this game where you just have to like wait for a block to move to you so that you can like stand on the block and wait for it to get somewhere else, or you have to like wait for spikes to go back into the ground and then they'll come back up. So you were spending so much time in this game just waiting to get to the next obstacle. And I really hate that. I want to move through these levels quickly. And I'm sure that speedrunners can do it and stuff. But as a casual player, it just does not feel good to just spend so much time waiting. But the other thing about this game is that because these are like open levels built primarily to like look like a place and not for level design, it means that when there are levels, 90% of the time you can just like go around them. I skipped so many of these like meticulously designed obstacle courses because I knew that I could probably just wall jump to some other place, some higher area, and just float my way to the ending to like get to the ending shine and just end the level. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna skip as much of this game as I possibly can. And I swear, I did like half of them that way. I barely did most of the levels
Okay.
the way they
Yeah,
were intended to.
that does sound bad. I mean, I wouldn't have avoided it. I feel like that's just like taking parts of the game away from yourself. But yeah, the fact that the option was there is really bad. Yeah. That's just bad
Okay,
design.
well, part of my reasoning for this is that the camera is so bad. There's an infamous
Oh
part
yeah.
of this game that I really tried to. There are a lot of infamous parts of this game, but there is a part where there is a Ferris wheel, and you're supposed to go behind the Ferris wheel to go through an obstacle course, but the camera in that area is so bad that you can't see what the obstacle course actually is. That is like one of the many places where the path of least resistance, if you want to have fun with this game, is to just skip it because it's very easy to do. You just go to the highest point of the level, just jump over to the ending, and then you're done. But
Oh
if you
my
go
god.
through it like you're supposed to, you have to like glitch through. You have to like glitch your camera through and get the right angle. It is really an uncooperative camera system. I just hate the camera so much. Like people complain about the camera in Mario 64, but because those levels didn't have a lot of like tall buildings and not a ton of walls, there were a lot less points of areas where it would be a problem if the camera was stuck behind a wall. It also
Right.
doesn't make the walls invisible when the camera when the wall is between Mario and the camera, which I don't know why they wouldn't do that. I really don't like this game. I have so much to say.
It feels like what I gathered from the game and from your comments is that the game doesn't feel very responsive. It's like the game's not even really responding to you. At least when you fuck up and like fall in Super Mario 64, you usually immediately fall into a bottomless pit and get kicked out of the level, and that's the game responding to you.
Yeah.
When you fall into a body of water, it's like, did they just make this body of water big because it's like, and it didn't play test it? So it's like you're swimming around in an area that they didn't even think about when they were playing. But the fact that you can skip things like the obstacle course by jumping over it, and the blue coins are so weird. They're like, you got to get more you got to get more shines, but you don't have to play the levels. If you find enough of these small things around this very very empty map, and you just get them, and then you go back and trade in 10 of them, you get a shine immediately. It's like, do you want me to play the game? I don't know. It's very strange, very strange system.
You've given me another thing to complain about. So, in the level Pianta Village, the death box is so far down the level. Like, you should be dying, like, after you fall into a bottomless pit, right? That usually happens pretty quickly. But in this level, you have to fall for like seconds at a time. Like, I'm sitting there for 5 seconds, like, when am I going to die? I've been falling for so long. What's happening?
Do you think Koizumi isn't? Do you think Koizumi is into slow cinema? Maybe we can pitch this as something, like this is like a Chiming Land film where it's like enjoying the process of
Oh
swimming.
my God.
You're really savoring it. You're getting the mechanics of it into your system.
I'm sure that some people do enjoy this game for that. Again, Koizumi has like a big focus on atmosphere in a lot of his games where he really wants to get the feeling of a place to you. But I think that feeling of atmosphere sucks and I don't like it. Also, you said the game looks good. I really disagree with that. I think it is garish. It is so highly saturated. It might look better on a CRT, but on a digital screen, it is like these bright, bright greens and whites that are just flooding my eyes like, oh my God, this is so bright. I do not like this. I can't handle this much color. It's too much for me.
Agree to disagree then. I still stand by my point.
So Koizumi has a focus on atmosphere, and I should probably give some context to what I actually think he contributes to that atmosphere in this game. I think that he's trying to make like both an environmental point, being like, okay, yeah, we gotta clean up all the nature and stuff. I'm sounding cynical. That is something I believe in. It's a very basic children's media thing to do, and that's good and everything. He also tries to like mix in these themes of identity because we have Mario being accused of something that he didn't do, and Bowser Jr. is spoilers. Bowser Jr. is the Shadow Mario the entire time, and he's pretending to be Mario, and he's also believing that Peach is his mom. So he is pretending to be Mario, who is in love with Peach, who is his mom. And also, he's trying to be like his dad, Bowser. And
Wow. Doubles,
yeah,
Freudian dynamics. It's like Blue Velvet, you know?
exactly. Yeah, I think that we're supposed to read into it a lot deeper than it is. That like Bowser Jr. is pretending to be Mario. Like there's got to be some kind of theory of identity here, but I can't figure it out. I can't parse this. And there's also like a kind of like Majora's Mask. There's like, oh, there's this bright presentation, but there's a dark underside because there are things like in the Pianta Hotel or whatever. There's the storyline in that section is being like the mayor is really exploitative. There's a casino here, and he wants. There's like all these ghosts here. It's like, oh yes, this is a creepy thing that the vacation spot has a casino and everything. And also the mayor is like, oh, we Mario, I need to be tricking you into doing these things. I'm gonna trick you into being a hero, and also we're exploiting your labor to clean up this village, even though we know that you didn't do it. But so much of the dialogue in this game is just really, really bad. I hate the dialogue in this. Like all those things I explained that could have been done in like a sentence or two will be done in like 10 text boxes that are really the text boxes in this game are obnoxious. I hate it so much. There's like scrolling text that has like a sound effect that I hate. The font is awful. I hate the text boxes because they're like little lines of blue, and I hate like every aspect of this game.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like you're finding a way to be annoyed by literally every single choice made in this game creatively. I mean, I don't blame
I
you, but still.
I didn't try to be annoyed by it. I just am. Like this time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna like this game. I played it basically after all the other Koizumi games. Like, wow, I'm really gonna like read into this. I'm gonna find a lot to like in this game. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm really gonna commit myself to this Alturas project, and I'm going to have a narrative about how, after doing that, I really enjoyed this game a whole lot more. But no, I hate it. I hate it even more after playing the whole game. I have found parts that I think are worthwhile, but I've also been like, man, I'm so disappointed by the rest of this. I think I hate the game even more now.
Well, I mean,
uh,
to be fair, liking a creative person and then getting immediately frustrated at them for their decisions in one specific project is one of the most auteurist things you can do.
of
It's very,
course.
very dedicated to the auteur project you are. Yeah.
As a big fan of Francis Ford Coppola's Jack and Megalopolis,
Yes.
I could definitely feel
Yeah.
this.
Yep. I saw Megalopolis in IMAX theater, and I was like, I really like Apocalypse Now. There's some of it here. Kind of. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
God, I wish I saw Megalopolis in IMAX. I really missed out on that. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on Koizumi's vision in Sunshine?
I mean, that extra stuff about the side quest is interesting to me, but more so, I wouldn't say, well, I didn't play it, so I don't know, but it's not really an addition of dark stuff to me as much as it is an addition of story that I think I'm interested in. He gets a lot
Right.
more story focused with the Mario games, as we will see in in the future moment that will eventually lead to his downfall by his mentor. I'm overhyping this. But yeah, there are a bunch of smaller themes that I want to bring up just so I don't forget them later on. I'm going to bring them up later, of course. But I think Koizumi is Mr. Side Character. He really loves adding side characters that give you dialogue. We're going to bring this up later, of course, but in Mario Galaxy, in the opening cutscene where you're just like running down Mushroom Kingdom, you can literally talk to all of the toads. Here, you can talk to all of are their names Isle Delphinins? I don't know what the
I
names
think
are.
they're Piantas.
They're Piantas. Okay. Yeah. You can basically talk to all of the Piantas. And they're running around and you can stop them, like in Majora's Mask with the guys that are running around and you have to run into to stop them and talk to them. In addition to that, there's also like a retooling of context that I think is interesting. Miyamoto, we talked about this in the Miyamoto episode, but Miyamoto talked about how he did a lot of sports and reworked parts of sports and like physical acts that he did into the video games that he made, or how he like tooled the experience of hiking or like exploring caves into the original Legend of Zelda. Apparently there's a story here that Koizumi tells. I don't know if he's the one that came up with it, but he is one of the people who may have originally suggested the idea of FLUDD for Super Mario Sunshine after getting the original prototype for the GameCube controller and and thinking and pressing down the trigger and being reminded of the trigger of the water guns that he used to play with as a kid. And he really tried, he keeps talking about this in a lot of interviews I kept reading about trying to get the trigger just right so it felt like how he remembered playing with water guns felt like. And I think that's just like a very Miyamoto-ish tradition. He talks about himself being also a protege of Miyamoto. So I feel like since we already did the Miyamoto episode, there's a lot of that carrying over to what he's doing here and some other stuff, but I will mention that later.
Yeah, Koizumi is really known for being Miyamoto's like protege or apprentice or anything. He's really taken over the Mario franchise after Miyamoto kind of stopped doing that after Mario 64. I mean, Miyamoto became a producer and then Koizumi would start directing. And then when Miyamoto would stop being a producer, Koizumi would become the producer of the Mario series. So he really has been um, Miyamoto's protege, as he's proved over the past 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in 10 years, Koizumi's going to announce his own movie. He's going to be producing his own Universal theme park and his own movie, just like Miyamoto's doing now.
A separate Mario theme park.
Exactly.
This one's going to be better and more focused on story.
Exactly.
Oh. Anyway, do you have any more thoughts on Super Mario Sunshine, the worst game ever made, and I hate it so much?
Yeah. No, basically nothing could be worse than the new Super Mario Brothers games or like Super Mario 3D Land. I hate those games. So anything, I mean, at least this has a personality. That's all I wanted to say.
I disagree. I dislike Sunshine more than those games. I don't mind the lack of personality because I like the level design at least.
I've never heard anyone talk about Super Mario 3D Land that isn't, in a way, comparing it to other 3D Mario games. That's how unmemorable it is. It's just a complete nothing of a game. Apologies to all the Super Mario 3D Land heads that are like, oh, it's my favorite game.
Okay, so after Super Mario Sunshine, his first lead that was a little bit controversial, he would start working on Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. And this would be Galvin is cheering in the background.
Everyone, we're going to give you a moment of silence to cheer and hoot loudly in the middle of this episode. Get ready, go. Okay,
so
thank you.
after the mixed reception of Super Mario Sunshine, Koizumi seemed to want to go back to basics. He saw that modern controls had gotten really complicated and that wasn't very approachable for a lot of people. And Super Mario Sunshine hadn't really taken off the way that he wanted it to, where anyone could play it. So I was like, okay, how do we make this game as simple as possible? Well, luckily, there is a controller called the Donkey Kong Bongos that was originally made for playing a rhythm game where you play the bongos, like I don't know, Guitar Hero, but with bongos, I guess, where you're just hitting buttons, hitting the right bongos when you need to, when they pop up on the screen. And he's like, you know what? I can make a platformer out of this. We're going to be making the game as simple as possible because it's just 2 buttons. The proto dive kick. And it turns out this is really good. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, it's great. I love it. I don't know how he did it, but he made a good game out of 2 buttons.
This was the big highlight of the episode for me because I knew Mario Galaxy was going to be good. I did not know Donkey Kong Jungle Beat was going to be this good. It really impressed me. And if you want to fit it into the Arcturus project, I mean, you could argue Koizumi was the one who turned Ocarina of Time and retooled all the assets into a really dark and fucked up game. And Koizumi came out with the water gun. So he was like, let's make a really dark and fucked up version of the Donkey Kong bongos. And this is what he came up with. You know, this is the dark, twisted version of the Donkey Kong bongos that he turned Donkey Kong, an innocent, lighthearted rhythm game, into this fucked up amalgamation of genres and mediums. No, this game is incredible. I don't know how this...
And the bongos don't talk, which is great. I love that the bongos don't talk.
That might have been, honestly, a response to it, because one thing I realized is there's basically no text or dialogue in this game, besides like the little intermissions after the end of the levels that are like, pro tip, do this thing that you were already doing, which I'm assuming that they may have made him add later on in the game if certain players weren't getting how to do certain things. But those are really completely, like, I don't know. If you want to talk about cinematics, this is a very good game about like how to show people how to do things without just outright telling them through text. Basically, all the instructions that people show to you are through side characters, but they show little signs that are very good at getting you to figure out what to do. Like, you know, clap here, drum here. there are like these shot setups where you're supposed to where you jump on top of a downed character and you're supposed to beat them really hard. And Koizumi sets up the same camera position every single time. So you know intuitively, even without the game telling you like, hey, you need to bash the bongos here to beat up these people, you know what to do basically. By the way, the reason this game is good is because, well, not just because it's a platformer with 2 buttons, but also because it's a platformer about button mashing, finally. A game for people of my intelligence level, where 99% of the problems are like, how do you solve this problem? Oh, you either clap or you violently bash the bongos. It's like an adrenaline platformer, a platformer based on generating adrenaline. I love it.
Right. So we should probably explain how you play the game. So in Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, you move to the right by hitting the right button, which will also be the right bongo if you're using those. Instead of like holding down the button, you have to be hitting it and it'll move you a little bit to the right. So you want to move like 10 meters or so to the right, you have to keep on slapping that bongo, baby. You got to keep on hitting it in order to move
Right.
faster, in order to move long distances. And the same with the left bongo. You got to hit that left bongo to go left. So if you're doing a platforming level, you're just hitting these bongos over and over again.
So smart. So smart. It's about keeping up the rhythm. I mean, it would have been so boring if you just held down one button or another, which apparently is what the Wii version is, according to you,
Yeah.
according to your reportage. I'm going to keep coming back to this, but it's about keeping up a kind of energy and having you repeatedly hit the right bongo to go right. God, there's so much about this game that's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the Wii version of the game, the remake basically, just gives it normal controls where you use a thumbstick. And I think
Evil.
that's a major disappointment. If you play
Fucked up.
Jungle Beat, play the GameCube version. It's way better. And there are other interactions with the game. If you clap, then Donkey Kong will also clap, and it's kind of like an attack that it will both collect bananas, which are your points, and it will hurt enemies, and it will do other interactions if you clap,
It is
throwing barrels and such.
It's a do anything action. That's how I thought of it. Where it's like whenever you walk up to an object and you don't know what to do, the answer 99% of the time is the clap, and then the game will do something to the environment that I think is very interesting because don't want to get too ahead of myself. That's exactly what the spin attack is in Mario Galaxy. Just if you don't know what to do with an object, you just spin. It's interesting to me that there are 2 games in Koizumi's gamography. There's a big catch-all button that is violent. I don't know.
Yeah. That's another problem I have with Sunshine. I'm not done yet. Is that because you have so many more verbs in Sunshine, it's hard to figure out how you're supposed to interact with items. Like, are you supposed to spray it with water? Or are you supposed to grab it? Are you supposed to jump on it? Who knows? But because he's reduced the controls into one interact button, there's never really any difficulty in figuring out what you're supposed to do with the interactions, which is incredible. I love it. It becomes so fast paced that you can just get through these levels and instantly understand what you're supposed to do in them. I love it so much. I should also mention that there's also a jump button because it's a platformer. I think if you're on the controller, you can just press A. I think if you're doing the bongos, if you hit both bongos at once, then you jump, but I can't say for sure.
A statement only deranged minds could come up with. You hit both bongos to jump. This game is crazy.
Yeah. So this is like a pretty normal 2D platformer. After that, like you have those controls down. You're basically going through the level, getting through obstacles. There's some things you have to wait for. There's some things that you just have to navigate and go around spikes and whatever. And then usually there's a boss at the end and you beat the boss. But because you're doing it through the bongos, it feels like a completely different experience than like anything you've done in any other platformer. And I love it so much. It would be a lot easier to play this with like normal controls because the game is built around the bongos. The levels are not difficult, but they become a lot more engaging because you're doing all these physical motions, and it's just I don't know.
And
It's crazy to me.
I actually want to disagree with you, something you said earlier. I don't think this is really a typical platformer because this game is very streamlined. Like each of the levels are like 2 minutes or like a minute and a half. These are like very, very fast levels. And they're designed that way because you have to keep up a kind of energy with hitting the bongos, but like changing the pattern how you drum essentially as you keep going. Like a rhythm game, but without a soundtrack. I don't know. It's bizarre, but it's like, yeah, you have to keep up a certain amount of energy, and the game sometimes just randomly changes modes on you. Not even during the bosses, but like sometimes you'll get onto a rhino and it becomes like a high jump competition where you have to hit the bongo right as far as possible. It's like kind of like a sandbag level in Super Smash Brothers. I don't know. The game pulls so many fast ones on you that it's like WarioWare plus a platformer, I guess, where it's like it's constantly throwing new things at you. Also, the game is extremely short. Partially because, I mean, all killer, no filler, but also partially because I think they stated in an interview if they made players play too long, their hands would hurt. So they just really had to shorten the game as much as possible. So
Yeah, I didn't have the bongos, sadly. I wish I did. I just used the controller. And I imagine if you were actually using the bongos, this game would be so tiring, just wiggling your hands over and over again through each level. Like that's a real workout.
but as a monkey, as a person who is a monkey, I still think playing the game with buttons is really fun. Like it
Yes.
does build up a certain amount of excitement.
Something I found really interesting about Jungle Beat is that it completely does away with like the entire Donkey Kong quote unquote canon that Rare had created. There isn't a Diddy Kong, there isn't a Cranky Kong. None of the other Kongs are in this game. It's just Donkey Kong and the stuff that Koizumi, I guess, was putting into the game because there's so much less story and all the different characters are focused instead on what they mean visually. But the enemies and the bosses, like they are built around the gameplay. They are no longer making the story and building the gameplay around it. It seems like he really adapted to the Miyamoto formula with this one, where you really want to focus instead on, okay, what gameplay things do I want to have in this level and how do I build the rest of it around it? Because there are no real cutscenes. There are introductory cutscenes that will show like what the characters are and how they interact with the game, but you don't see their backstories or whatever. You just kind of see what they are visually.
Also, the story is literally given to you in one sentence in the tutorial tip. They don't explain why you're doing the game in any other way. I think it's if you lose all your bananas, then your quest to become king of the jungle will be over. And that's the only sentence that actually explains what you're trying to do in the game. Otherwise, it's just a game about Donkey Kong running around and beating up people for no reason. Basically.
Donkey Kong is like so much angrier in this game too. It kind of feels like that he's doing it for no reason. He's so much
Yeah.
more like, I don't know, masculine and apish, where he's like, I'm going to start punching things. I'm going to slap everything. I'm going through this as quick as possible. Also, this is the first game to ever get an E10 rating. There's no like blood or like, I don't know, weapons violence is what I associate E10 with. It's just because he's punching people so hard and so, I don't know, cartoonishly violently that they had to bump it into E10 for some reason.
I can see like a group of parents seeing their kids being like, and being like, I don't know if we can get this exactly the calmest rating.
Yeah, Call of Duty will not make your kid violent. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, it might make your kid violent.
Yeah.
It's fun to punch things. You know this now.
The lesson is we need to make kids play more first-person shooters because that's the only way we'll stop violence.
So true. Get them some trench coats. It'll be great for their self-esteem. So then after this, he really nailed down this simple control thing. He learned a lot from Super Mario Sunshine. So what does he do? He continues on with the next Mario game, Super Mario Galaxy. This game is kind of iconic for me. I think this is really the game that made me really start to really enjoy and become interested in games, being one of the early titles for the Wii, which is like my first real game console. And I was like, oh wow, this game is incredible. I love this game so much. This is like a major point of nostalgia for me personally. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention that.
Whereas I'm different from you because my main point of nostalgia was the Wii and the Super Mario Galaxy 2, unlike the first one. So
Yeah.
I had a very
Which
different
means you had a
childhood
worse
than you.
childhood than me.
I had a better childhood than you. I'm not willing to back down on that. My hot take.
Do you
We'll
like
get to
Mario
it.
Galaxy 2 more?
I remember liking it more. I mean, I haven't played it in like 7 years.
Okay.
But
I played both. I mean, I'm still biased because I enjoyed this more as a kid as well. But I played both earlier this year. I was like, okay, I really like Mario Galaxy 1 more. I like it so much
okay.
more. And anyway, Mario Galaxy is a much simpler game. It moves away from like the open zone formula of 64 and Mario Sunshine. How did I forget that? What the hell? Anyway,
You're trying to
it
repress
becomes
it
a
from
much
your brain.
I don't want to think about this game anymore. Get it out. Get it out.
Second you finish this episode, you're just going to forget it's a video game at all. You're never going to go back to it.
It's just the trauma and everything. It just makes my body want to like forget it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mario Galaxy became a much more linear game. It was more of an obstacle course with like, okay, we're going to do 2D level design within a 3D space. And they didn't just do that. They made it even more linear by using planets. Mario Galaxy used a gravity system where they're, instead of using the Euclidean space for your characters to go through, like a flat plane where you jump up and down, it instead uses elliptical space where you can go upside down on these different planetoids and move around them as a circle, which solves two major problems at once, which I think is a really cool innovation. It solves a lot of the camera problems because basically anywhere you are in that section of the level, you're going to be able to see your character without any issues. You can see basically the entire planetoid level and see everything on it. Whereas if you're on a 2D plane, there's probably going to be stuff behind you and everything. Whereas on a 3D level, I mean, on a sphere, you can see most of the things that you have to interact with, which I think is really cool. And it also causes people to be less lost in the levels. When I was playing Mario Sunshine, I could get pretty lost sometimes. But when you're on a little sphere, if you keep going to the right, you're going to be ending up back to where you were. So no matter where you wander, you're eventually going to get to the place you need to go on that level, which I thought was also cool. People do complain that this game is when Mario started getting more linear, and a lot of people don't like that. But it solved a lot of the design problems that they had while they were working on Sunshine.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I don't know if it was this episode that made me do this, playing all these games in such a close time, but really playing Super Mario Galaxy made me feel like it was like large parts of its design were responses to previous games that Koizumi had worked on, like the biggest problems. Like for example, him trying to bother with the camera. I mean, he went to film school. His first job for Ocarina of Time was partially at least working on the Z trigger, which is focusing the camera. He tried to experiment with different parts of the camera in Mario Sunshine by incorporating a first person mode that we didn't even mention because it's so useless. And finally, he was like, I figured out the problem. We just force the camera to be in a specific position. And if it's confusing sometimes, good, because they're upside down. They're on a planet. It's supposed to be confusing. They made the camera honestly part of the game. And even when they give you camera controls, they barely give it to you. Halfway through the game, they're like, oh, you can use the D-pad to move around. And like half the time it doesn't work because the camera is so specifically controlled. And there are specific parts of the game where the camera will actively just move to show you a platform that you couldn't see before. So it becomes like a fixed camera. I mean, I'm thinking of Resident Evil 1, like that kind of stuff, where the game is dictating where you look specifically. So I think that's interesting as a response to the previous games.
yeah, it's also like a very cinematic game in general. When
Yes.
you're moving in between planets, there are these launch stars,
Yep.
and they basically exist for you to like use your spin move, and then it'll launch you to the next level. But they use it to like sort of show the entire area that you were at and where you're going. It shows progression visually in a way that I think is really impressive, where it just kind of shows like, wow, you just did all of that. Now you're going to be doing all of this. And we're going to be showing you the objective by using this cutscene that is also probably like a loading screen. And we're going to be showing you, okay, this is what you're doing next. And a lot of the time, this is this cool thing where some levels will like have the star which you're trying to get like right underneath you as you land, and like it's showing you that like, okay, this is where you're going to need to go, but you can't get to it yet, so you're gonna have to figure out a way to get to your objective. Whereas with Sunshine, there was a big problem where not knowing where your objective was a lot of the time. um so I thought it was like, wow, that's such cool level design and such great use of using like filmmaking language, I guess, to
Yeah.
really build upon the game.
And also the star bits, which I don't think is a very big deal. I mean, it's not like a groundbreaking thing, but I think I initially disparaged it when you initially recommended a Koizumi episode because I didn't like it playing Super Mario Sunshine 2. There's a feature where you can move your Wii cursor around as you're playing the game. And if you hover over any star bits, which are the main currency of the game, you basically collect them. But I'm realizing now, as I was playing Super Mario Galaxy, that it's basically a way to encourage the player to look around the screen,
Right.
to see if there are different things. As you're flying around, there are even star bits that you can waggle around to get from the planet that you're going to before you get there. So I think that's another way of melding filmmaking technique and like trying to promote visual literacy, I guess, with video games. It's a good meld of filmmaking and video game design. Also, just wanted to mention, there's an amazing moment where when you go through a launch star, the camera points up towards the sun during a specific level, and I realized then that they programmed a fake lens flare into the video game for the camera. There's a big rainbow around the sun that only appears when you point an actual real life camera towards the sun, and they programmed that into the video game. A lens flare. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
I think that was like a neat gimmick in a lot of the like 7th gen games. But now if you look at like any AAA game now, they put lens players. It's like why are we doing this? Why does everyone feel the need to replicate the cameras in their games? So I think I'm kind of over that, but it is something that is cool at the time.
I didn't think of it in terms of that, but yeah, you're probably right. I thought of it more as like Koizumi likes filmmaking and he was like trying to put something like that into it. But that makes more sense, yes.
I see. That works. Anyway, we didn't mention very much about the story in this game because it's a Mario game. And the story is about Mario saving Peach after Bowser kidnaps her. This is kind
Whoa.
of groundbreaking stuff. But there is also a character called Rosalina who appears, and she's your helper character. It's like, oh, I'll give you the power. I'm going to help you capture Peach because Mario is just as bad as Bowser. And she's like,
This was
oh, okay,
early
this is
in like cinematic techniques. It's like Spec Ops: The Line. You know, they were really trying to promote like gray morality. You were the bad guy the whole entire time.
so true. That was Koizumi's vision for this game. That's the
Exactly.
story he tried to sneak in here.
That was a dark aspect of this game. This is like the Majora's Mask of Mario games.
And Miyamoto was so mad when he found out that you kill Peach at the end of this game. He's like, Koizumi, you're not allowed to put story in these games anymore. Oh, okay. But yeah, so for real, Rosalina is like a pretty basic character, just gives you the quest and everything, puts you on her spaceship and everything. But there's this part of called the library, which is where you get Rosalina's backstory. And it's a very simple thing. It's literally like a children's storybook where it's just giving her backstories like, oh, hey, I was really sad and alone when my mom died. And then I met all these Lumas, these little characters in this game. It's like, oh, wow, I have a family now.
I have more to read into it, but I get that it looks like a simple story, right? Like
Yeah.
generally in terms of plots, yeah. But I have much more to read into it later. Later, though.
Okay. So I mean, my reading of it is that it becomes like a part of camaraderie, and the space is like kind of a metaphor for loneliness in a lot of ways. And like playing through these levels and building up your hub world by getting more and more Lumas in there and bringing light to this area, because as you keep on playing these levels, more of the spaceship will start being powered up and be brighter and happier. So it feels like the more you're interacting with the world instead of like staying in one place and doing stuff will like build upon your happiness and finding found family and all that stuff. It's a very simple um kids message that you see in a lot of like kids movies and such, but I think it works really well here. It's simple but effective, and it's told through the atmosphere of the game in a way that I don't experience very often, because you can feel that like loneliness sometimes in some levels, whereas the other levels with the characters that you get to interact with, like they feel happier. It feels like you're building these communities, and there's like storylines of these characters interacting with each other as the game continues. I mean, not storylines, but you see these characters interact with each other as the game continues.
The storyline is one Luma is chasing another. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, very very simple. And is your deep connections is that there's always an NPC chasing another NPC.
Yeah, that's it. You got me. You got me. You figured it out.
You've mentioned that so many times. But this is famously something that Miyamoto wanted to do. He wanted to use the barest amount of characterization in order to give players a goal. Donkey Kong steals Pauline, and Mario has to save her. And then Bowser steals Peach, and Mario has to save her. And that's usually all the motivation and story he would put in his games. Whereas Koizumi, he was a lot more interested in putting story and adding things through the world, through dialogue. You can see that a lot through Majora's Mask and Sunshine, but that's something that he was able to like sneak into this game. This is a common legend with this game. People kind of overstate it, but there is truth to it that Koizumi snuck in this backstory for Rosalina past Miyamoto, and he did. He did sneak this storyline past Miyamoto, but Miyamoto approved it before the game released. After he saw it, I guess, and he was fine with it, and I guess he was okay with it because Koizumi was the director. But it's something that I think distinguishes Miyamoto and Koizumi a lot, even though Koizumi is seen as Miyamoto's apprentice. It's like this is something that Miyamoto clearly wouldn't do, but this is something that even though Miyamoto is the producer, Koizumi was able to use his directorial influence to like add this major part of the game that is small but really changes things as a whole. Yeah, so I find that really important.
And even then, I think Koizumi was very kind of Miyamoto in that he included the story in basically a room that you don't have to go into again after you go into it the very first time. And he mentions that in an interview that it's like, if you don't want to go for the story, then you just don't. Keep playing the levels.
Which was me as a kid. I didn't read any of that shit. I'm not reading a book when I'm playing my game.
True. The better medium, video games. As for my reading of Super Mario Galaxy's story, I mean, a lot of this ties into what I think about Koizumi's career as a whole. But again, that might just be because I played all of those games in a very short period of time. I like interpreting parts of games or art as part of a person's whole personal statement. But I think it's very interesting how a lot of Koizumi's games are about retooling assets to use into different things, into different contexts. Like I said before, Ocarina of Time was retooled in the Majora's Mask mainly out of a necessity, since they only had such a short development cycle to release a new game. There is, in terms of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, there's retoolings of controllers, and also within Super Mario Sunshine, where he retooled the trigger of the GameCube controller into basically a water gun. And the same way he retooled the Donkey Kong bongos from Donkey Konga into a platformer, which is still bizarre to me, and I'm never going to get over. But there's a lot of stuff about retooling assets from previous games and other games. And Mario Galaxy, I didn't realize, was by far maybe one of the most surreal Mario games, in that it's basically all about retooling previous assets from previous games. Well, a lot of it is addressing like camera controls and things like that, but stuff like, penguins from Mario 64 show up. A lot of the original old tool sets and controls from Mario 64 show up. Essentially, like, there are coconuts from Mario Sunshine. There are a lot of different power-ups that correspond to like using different parts of the controller in different ways, which is something that Koizumi learned very much from Mario, that Koizumi learned very much from Miyamoto and has been doing throughout his career with the bongos and the water gun. A lot of it is like taking previous parts of Mario and rebirthing them into new things. And I think that's something that shows very clearly through the story and how it presents itself to you, and how you're basically creating new planets with the hungry Lumas, or like how stars transform, how Lumas transform into launch stars and seem to transform back. It's very interesting how the stars are like transformable properties that turn into different things, even entirely different worlds. Rosalina's story, I'm about to spoil Rosalina's story. Sorry for anybody who doesn't know. I mean, I say that sounding like a joke, but I genuinely didn't know Rosalina's story until I went into the game. And I was surprised by it because there's a lot going on here. The story is essentially that Rosalina is looking for her mom. She's looking for her mom who has disappeared somewhere, and she only has the Lunas for help, or one Luma for help, actually. But she basically travels in a spaceship with the Luma, and then they accumulate more of a family of Lumas. And then there's this big shocking twist at the end where Rosalina was like, I actually knew I wasn't going to be able to find my mom the entire time, because my mom was in my home planet, which I have left and I'm not coming back, and she's buried under a tree. She's dead. But the ultimate conclusion of the story is that Rosalina has created a new family, and weirdly enough has found her mother, because she is now the mother. She's now the mother to all these Lumas. And it's basically a story about how, in searching for a paternal figure, she somehow manages to inherit traits of the paternal figure from beyond and become the paternal figure. Kind of like how Koizumi learned from Miyamoto and took over as a director from him.
Oh my God.
Kind of like that.
Okay.
Really? You think about it like that? I don't know. I think that's very interesting. Now they use these, and now Rosalina or Koizumi are using these stars, the fabrics of previous universes, and rolling them into newer retooled universes with the same assets, but with different appearances. I think this really comes into its own with the ending, which people don't talk about. The actual ending of Super Mario Galaxy, which is not much of a twist, but it is strange in terms of a Mario game. The game ends with the entirety of the game, all of the galaxy seemingly being sucked into a black hole after you defeat Bowser, and everyone seemingly dying, but then the black hole rebirths everyone into one gigantic planet and brings back everyone, Mario, Peach, and Bowser, next to each other. And that's the end of the game.
Shit.
They don't beat Bowser. It's like they're all on the same planet, basically, at the end. And it's like, oh wow, we're retooling the entire mythology of Mario, created throughout the franchise and all the images, into, I don't know, one big tapestry that is eternally destroying and recreating itself. I thought there was something very beautiful about that. I can tell you don't believe anything I said. You think I'm just making shit up.
My gut reaction is yes, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me to like to have that. Like, I don't think that's an outright intent that he had, but it's probably something that he had going on in his mind as he was making this. Like, okay,
Right.
this is my Mario thing. I have to become the director here, and I have to make my own thing here. I think that's probably something he was drawing from. Um, Again, I don't think that's his intention or anything. I don't think that you're saying that that's his intention. And
Sure.
I'm finding
Yeah.
this reading more and more interesting and fruitful for me the more I think about it. So I do like this. I like this. Thank you for this reading.
I mean, a big part of auteur theory to me is like thinking about things subconsciously, like how ideas come up within auteurs like subconsciously. And I don't think, I don't think Koizumi was like, oh, I'm definitely going to put this like 100% intentionally in my game. But he did put a lot of additional effort into the Rosalina story. And I feel like he has to have
Right.
believed in something in that to create it and put it in.
Just like Megalopolis. Just like
Yep.
Megalopolis.
I mean, in some ways, Mario Galaxy is a megalopolis. It's disorienting, controversial. People say it's where the franchise fell apart.
We're no longer going to say things like the Citizen Kane of games. We're going to see the Megalopolis of games
That's good. Yeah.
to show
When
true
when
greatness.
somebody makes their auteur masterpiece, we're going to call it the megalopolis. That's it. That's what we're doing from now on.
I have a few other quick things I want to say about Mario Galaxy. I think that there is such great cutscene direction and like visuals in this game. I look at the
Yes.
first level in this, and it's very simple, and it is gameplay first, of course, but it's still like a striking visual where you go onto this planet in the Good Eggs Galaxy, and you see this like castle on one side of a disc, basically, and on the other side is just a simple house with a garden in it, and it's not like a deep image or anything, but it is like a compelling one. It is like interesting. It's like these two contrasts right next to each other. And it also like teaches you the basics of like, oh hey, you can go on to this other place on the other side and you're not gonna fall off or anything. But it's also like, oh wow, this is interesting. This is a visual that I can like interpret and think about. And I'm probably not gonna find much deeper there, but it's like, oh, interesting contrast. What does this mean?
And I think it sets up that the game is basically about doing whatever it wants to you. It is very much like Donkey Kong Jungle Beat in that sense, where it's like, fuck you, the level is now a gigantic ski jump. But I love what Super Mario Galaxy does, where it's like, screw you, we're going to introduce stars where you have to point at them and click and drag and it becomes a top-down game. Or screw you, you're in a bubble and we have to blow you around, and if you pop, you fall into a poison swamp and die. I don't know. The game changes so much on you that it's like introducing that kind of spontaneity to you.
Yeah. Uh, Also, I just like the motion controls. Like, it has that kind of element of Jungle Beat where you have like it's intensifying the motion, even though it's
Yeah.
not really changing the gameplay up very much because you have
Mhm.
to move the Wii remote in order to do your spin attack. Like probably a pretty difficult thing for some disabled people or something. But as an
Yeah.
able person, like this is, I think it really improved the experience for me. Like, oh, I just move my remote and like, yes, there's this extra little boost in my jump that I need, and it's bringing me energy as I do it, and it just feels really good to do. And the other motion control stuff, I think, is pretty similar. The pointer for collecting star bits is like it turns every aspect of the game into an on-rail shooter if you want it to be. Like
Yes.
you can multitask and like do your platforming while collecting things with the pointer, and I think that's a lot of fun. I think that like there are like other motion control things that are a little bit controversial. There's a part where you have to like do marble racing using the motion controls there. Some people don't like that. I really like it. There's also like a surfing mini game where you tilt the remote side to side to turn. Some people don't like that. I thought that was fun. Yeah, just some quick things I thought of.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say, I think it is fun that Koizumi is taking after Miyamoto in like being able to use the controller in all sorts of different ways. That being said, pretty much everything involving tilting the Wii remote, I basically couldn't play in Mario Galaxy because I was emulating it. So I lost out on large parts of the game there. But I think it's fun that he's reusing. He's finding out different ways to use the Wii remote. And I think the Wii remote's very interesting in how it allows you to multitask. How shaking and like pointing at the screen doesn't change from how you actually move. The Wii was actually pretty well designed. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I really like the Wii. I mean, I guess it was my first console and I'm nostalgic about it, but I really like it in a way I'm not nostalgic about my other childhood consoles. So I really like the Wii.
My only complaint is that the game does not make you actually spin around in real life to do the spin attack, which it should have done.
Could you imagine playing this game on like the Kinect or something and it's just like, oh, spin, spin, spin?
They detect it
He
because
should have done that.
they don't see your eyes anymore, so you have to actually turn around.
And then people like try to cheat the system by like just twisting or something. Oh my god. Motion controls, what an era. Bring it back. Also, Mario Galaxy like takes so many elements, design elements from Jungle Beat. I never realized that. This is like something that people talk about, but I didn't know about it. Like the flowers that you spin on to do a little jump, that's from Jungle Beat. If
Yep,
you the spin attack is basically the clap from Jungle Beat. Like
yep.
there are so many aspects of this game. It's like, oh, this is just an enemy from Jungle Beat. That's crazy.
I like that he kind of like fidgeted around with what he wanted to do with his career, but once he got into Jungle Beat, he just like locked into it and used it as a formula for one of the most popular platforming games of all time.
Hell yeah. But then he stopped directing. No more directing
Well, once you
for
reach the top,
Yoshiaki
what else can you
Koizumi.
do? You know, it's like once you made the perfect game, what else can you make?
You become an executive. After this,
Exactly.
like I said, he would become a producer. Other people would start to direct the Mario franchise, but he would be producing the Mario franchise. Because like Miyamoto, the Japanese game industry is a lot more interested in promoting people that are doing a good job at a directing role and like putting them up the ladder to share their skills with everyone else. Whereas with Western studios, people are a lot more happy to stay in the director role or whatever instead of like becoming an executive. Not always, but sometimes. And he was also in charge of making the Switch. I mean, he was a creative lead on the Switch, and he's been a very pretty big part on the Nintendo Directs to present the new games, doing all the marketing and stuff. So again, he's become a bigger face, but he's become less of a secret boss. He's been less of a directorial auteur, in my opinion,
More like a
which I
regular
think is a
boss.
little bit sad, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Um,
regular boss.
Also, I mean, I didn't look into it much and I didn't play Odyssey that much, but apparently he was one of the biggest pushes on Odyssey to use the Joy-Con in different ways. So he is still doing that random bullshit with the different controllers.
Yeah.
Still a big proponent of that.
Did some motion controls, and also Odyssey is also where they start to do a little bit more story again. Still not much, but yeah, I don't know. Just an interesting thing to note. So that's a bit it for Yoshiaki Koizumi, unless I want to go back to Ocarina of Time. I want to do some interpretation now that we've set the ground for Koizumi.
Oh
Because
shit.
while historically, materially, it wouldn't be accurate to say that he had a huge influence on that game. I want to say, you know what? He's not sure. I'm going to interpret it anyway. This is
Yeah.
me doing a Tarantino was the author of Natural Born Killers. This is me doing that. Something that I find like interesting again is like the theme of perception and identity. And there's this big part in Ocarina of Time where I guess I might be spoiling this for you, but I don't care. You can not enjoy it. But the big thing in Ocarina of Time is that eventually the Link, who is a child, he is having like a nice happy adventure and everything. And then he becomes an adult. Master Sword, not the Ocarina of Time, turns him into an adult, and then he goes outside and is like, "Oh, the world is fucked. Everything is ruined. This is the apocalypse. Ganondorf has won, and everything is over. And all the town residents, they're zombies now. That's awful. That sucks." Like he has to go back to all the different places that he visited as a kid and see how things have changed, how people have grown as adults or haven't. And I was like, I'm going to, based off of no actual historical elements, attribute that to Koizumi. I feel like that is something that he was really interested in thematically, of like that growth that you see in Rosalina. It was like, oh, this is character growth. This is coming of age story. How do we show this through the world, through like basic atmospheric elements? It's combining things in Mario Sunshine was like, who is this person? Like there is a different part of me. There is also like a shadow Link, a dark Link who you also interact with. So I'm going to basically attribute that to Koizumi as well, where there's a like another self that you see within Ocarina of Time sometimes, where you have to like figure out who you are in relation to yourself, which I think is a cool thematic aspect of that game, and also to Majora's Mask because they're both Zelda games. So yeah,
That's very strange that both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are about, in some ways, towns being obliterated by time. They did that for both
yeah.
games. Interesting.
He did say in an interview that he was fascinated by time and like trying to show that throughout his games. I don't
Hmm.
see that very much in the post Majora's Mask. Like I see elements of it in like Rosalina's stuff, but yeah,
Like I
that
said
is
with
something he said interested in.
like I said with Mario Galaxy, I think Mario Galaxy is kind of playing with the idea of cyclical time of the Mario franchise being like this
Oh
eternally
right,
looping mythology, and like all times from like Mario 64 to Sunshine to whatever being mashed up into one place. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, Any further thoughts on Koizumi?
No, I liked him very much. Oh, one more thing I wanted to bring up, but I can't fit into any part anywhere. This guy loves races. I don't know why. Every game I've played from him has a level where you race a character. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat has one. Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy has one. There's so many races, and I don't know why, because they're my least favorite levels. That's all.
I think it's just because they're very cheap to make. Like, if you do a race, you basically have like another player character going through the level as it already exists, and then you're like, yay, it's a new level because you have to do it quickly this time. Yay.
They suck. They're so bad. Yeah.
Another thing I hate about Super Mario Sunshine is that they're really bad in that game because like the levels
All
aren't
right.
built
Get ready
around
for another 2
like
hours.
actual level
So
design.
they're going to be a 3.5 hour level, 3.5 hour episode.
One of the levels is just a flat plane, and you have to run faster than the other guy on this flat plane, which isn't hard. And then you get to the other side, like, yep, that's the level. You beat this in 20 seconds. Now, here's your reward. Bye bye. Anyway, recommendations. I don't recommend Super Mario Sunshine. I don't like
Oh,
that
really?
game. But everything
Whoa.
else, that's an A+ in my book.
Wow.
Love it.
That's a surprise. And me personally, I was about to say, I'm only going to recommend Sunshine. No, I'm not. That would be
Just
funny.
despite me.
I recommend Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. There are some slow platforming sections in it, but it's pretty much, besides that, a very, very good game. It reminds me of Gunstar Heroes and how much it's about keeping up a certain level of adrenaline. I mean, Gunstar Heroes is the perfect video game. There's no denying that. But Jungle Beat, wonderful. I think Mario Galaxy is good. I think there are some slow parts that I dislike, and I don't know. I don't think it's as good as a Galaxy 2, but it is just like a very good platformer. And I recommend playing Majora's Mask for 20 minutes and then never playing it again to make your friend mad and sad.
You know what? Do it for 15 minutes. Why not?
Okay. A little crazy there.
Anyway, this was my pick. What are we doing the next episode on?
All right. Next episode, we are going back to itch.io because last time we did, I think last itch.io person we did was NPC Casey. But we're going back again. We are doing Brianna Lay. Do you know who Brianna Lay is?
No, I do not. But I think I might have seen you on Backlog logging something like Butterfly Hero.
You flubbed it. No? You flubbed half of it, but I good effort. Good effort. It was Butterfly Soup. She made the two games, Butterfly Soup and Butterfly Soup 2. And also, I don't know if I feel like you would be around the age to notice, but she made the popular RPG Maker meme game, Palm Gets Wi-Fi. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of that. I'm not an RPG Maker person, to be honest.
Okay. Never mind that.
It was very much popular.
It was very much a facet of 2013, like Tumblr fandom stuff. Also, PewDiePie played it. I don't know. It was the internet was a very small place then, and that was just one of the big RPG Maker games I think that blew up next to Off, but it was known for being like a much less serious, much goofier game.
Okay, well, we got to play it if PewDiePie played it. I mean,
yeah,
that's our motto for this podcast. Play what PewDiePie plays.
Anything that PewDiePie does, we do. We're like Koizumi. PewDiePie is our Miyamoto.
He's our idol. Oh my God.
Wow. Wow. We love you, PewDiePie. Come on the podcast. Come on the podcast.
Can you imagine? That'd be awful. Let's never do that.
Yeah. But, also, weirdly enough, I did not plan this. I started playing Brianna Lay's games maybe 4 or 5 days ago. Literally 2 days ago, after I think 6 years of silence, she announced a new game on Tuesday, 2 days ago, and she's launching a Kickstarter for it. So very good, very interesting. I think Brianna Lay is interesting because she takes after, I think, a lot of what we're interested in. She grew up with a lot of visual novels, like NPC Casey, very interested in Ace Attorney and Zero Escape, as you'll see through the countless references you will have to endure in Palm Gets Wi-Fi of Zero Escape. But also her new game is apparently pitched as a mix of Chinese mythology with Zero Escape and AI Somnium Files style gameplay mixed with Disco Elysium style dialogue. Very strange. It's called The Crane Rider's Story, I think it's called. Yeah.
Is it coming out soon, or is this like a Kickstarter for something like
the Kickstarter literally just began. They're planning on releasing it, I think, mid-2028, so it's going to be a while.
Okay.
Yeah. Butterfly Soup and Butterfly Soup 2 are two very short visual novels, 3 hours each, and Palm Gets Wi-Fi is a 1 hour long RPG Maker game. So, very short, very sweet. I liked a lot of it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know anything about this person, but they sound pretty rad. I like the sound of butterfly soup. It sounds like the least favorite person to add to the stone soup, but cool, pretty cool. Looking forward to it.
He loves
Are they
eating
visual
insects. He
novels?
just, yeah, Butterfly Soup 1 and 2 are Rempi visual novels,
Okay.
and yeah, Pong Gets Wi-Fi is RPG Maker.
More visual novels to add to the list. I think you've done 3 interactive fiction people in a row.
Yeah, but this one is different from Ingold, so whatever. Different enough to me, okay? Different enough to me.
Wait, actually, what did you do before? Was Hyspers before in NPC case?
Yes, I think so.
4 interactive fictions in a row.
What can I say? I have a niche. I
I
have a
love this
niche.
for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna force you into more gameplay oriented places.
No, I don't want to play video games, even though I signed up for a video game podcast. No.
Okay, wait a second. I need to check everything. Okay, I guess Sylvie was different. Damn. I was gonna see if literally everyone that you suggested has been like
That would
narrative
be
focused.
that would be a funny bit to keep up and see how long until you noticed. But no, I did not plan that far.
I think I would have noticed instantly. Like, how long would it have taken for me to call you out on it? That's a different question. Okay. Anyway, yeah, more RPG Maker, more visual novel. Sounds good to me. See you all next time. I'm Author Function.
I'm Galvin.
Thank you for listening.
All right.
Yay.
We did it. You're just going to splice this into the middle of the recommendation, right?
Maybe. Might pull out
Okay.
it on to the end where you can see all the behind the scenes because Galvin wanted to add one more thing. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. Who knows?
Fuck you. All right.
So what do you want to add, Galvin?
I just wanted to mention, have you ever seen those ads, maybe on YouTube or while playing a mobile game, of those mobile game interactive fiction games where you have extremely raunchy choices to make? You're in the middle of a romance and you're like, should I cheat on him or should I not? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like Newgrounds games? Newgrounds like sex
Like
games?
for
Basically?
mobile apps that are like mobile games, like episode Choose Your
okay,
Adventure.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Brianna Lay worked on one of those. She worked on a game called Choices for a company called Pixelberry, which was one of the very first people to create games like this. They started out with a game called Surviving High School in 2010, and it blew up for them. They got published by EA, and they went on to found their own big company, and they went on to hire writers. Well, she was one of those writers, and she wrote for 3 of the most popular stories on the game platform: High School Story Class Act, which is like season 2 of High School Story, and also My Two Dear Lovers, I think it's called, which is an LGBTQ story, which ties into Butterfly Soup because that's also an LGBTQ story that also takes place during high school. So I'm saying this as a promise to you. I will play all of these games and I will find a way to tie this into the episode.
Okay. Like, are they supposed to be like lower quality stuff or just like the ads were exploiting?
They're very written by community. They're very designed to be kind of trashy. The company now, Pixelberry, has fallen into complete AI slop. They no longer, I don't think they're hiring human writers anymore. And most of the people have left. Yeah. And yeah, these are very, I mean, just look up screenshots of Choices, Choose Your Own Story by Pixelberry. They do not look good. They are basically exactly the games that show up during those ads that are like, should I cheat on him? Should I not? I'm sure they're written with more integrity than that, but it is definitely designed to be soap opera, very trashy stuff, which there's nothing wrong with, but I think it's very funny that she made some very beloved visual novels and even got on Forbes 30 Under 30 in terms of game developers. And then she went on to do Should I Cheat on Him style mobile game stories. So that's all.
Okay. I just know that you're going to be contrarian and be like, these are her best games. This is going to happen.
It would be funny. To be clear, I mean, spoilers for the future episode, I did not like Calm Gets Wi-Fi, so I'm curious to see if I like these more than Calm Gets Wi-Fi, which is her breakout game that everybody on the internet loved. Yep, I'm going to be contrarian. You got me.
Sounds good. We'll have to see. And I'm going to hate it just to spite you if you do.
Damn it.
Yeah. It's revenge for the 20-minute Majora's Mask. Sucks for you. This is something that you're definitely very invested in to the same extent that I like Majora's
I'm gonna
Mask.
be so devastated. I'm gonna be crying on mic.
So much.
Why did you have to diss her games?
I'm
No.
looking forward to that. That's gonna be great. Okay. Now I'm gonna edit that into the episode very naturally. I'm not gonna end it on this last line.